All right, everyone. We'll get started as people kind of trickle in, wake up, and get ready. I saw some new faces or new names on the registration list. So I'm Katie Harwood now, with the Chamber of Commerce and Access Tallahassee. I'm the manager of events and access. So welcome to First Cup. We created this event to kind of take the place of our Coffee and Connections events, just to kind of have a way to connect through all of this until we're able to share a cup of coffee in person again. So little Zoom rules, everyone can mute themselves. Feel free to chat in the chat box off to the side. I have a few questions for Talethia, but then I want to open it up to everybody else because we want to hear from y'all. So put your question in the chat box, or you can raise your hand. What do we decide? If you click the more button at the bottom, you can raise your hand to be called on, or just put it in the chat box. And then I'll call on you and we'll keep it a little bit more organized than last week. We're learning. Without further ado, we have a sponsor this morning, TrueLeave. So Skylar is here from TrueLeave to say a few words about what's going on over there. Skylar, you want to tell us what's up?
Sure. Hi, I'm Skylar. I am the Community Outreach Manager. So I handle all partnerships from nonprofits to athletics to chamber partnerships. So we've been a member of the Tallahassee Chamber, I think, for a year now, a little over a year. And it's been great. But I'm not sure if you've heard of TrueLeaf before, but we're the largest cannabis company in the state of Florida with 46 locations statewide. I'm sorry, I'm probably looking at two screens right now, so I'm not crazy. So I wanted to tell you guys a little bit about True Talks that we've launched. So we're having our third True Talks today, and it's on stretching that you can do while sitting at your desk. I'm sure a lot of us have to sit in the same position, at least 6 hours a day, and that can be tiring on your neck and back and shoulders. So we've partnered up with one of our community partners, and they're going to do some stretches for us and talk a little bit about their organization. And then the next one we have is next Friday, the 17th, with our medical director, Dr. Brummel-Smith, on the power of the plant. So that's going to be really interesting because it's going to be all things cannabis. Now, these talks aren't all based around cannabis. They're more resources that you can utilize during this time, and they're on our YouTube channel. We've done some on mental health and resources available if you've lost your job. So if you're interested in those, please go watch. We're going to be live on Facebook today at noon. And that's all.
Very cool. There's a lot going on over there. I'm sure y'all are very busy right now.
We are. We're super busy, which is great, but it's also too crazy.
Yes, very crazy. Well, we have our guest this morning. Talethia Edwards is here to chat with us. Talethia, I can't imagine anyone here doesn't know you or know of you, but do you want to introduce yourself real quick to everybody?
Sure. Good morning, everybody. It's early, but we're all here and woke. I'm Talethia Edwards. I'm a wife, mother of now 8 children. We got 8 when we added a precious little boy that was brought to us on our doorstep last May, and he has been a wonderful, wonderful addition to our family. I'm currently the president of the Greater Bond Neighborhood Association, which is an impacted neighborhood on the south side of Tallahassee. You may have heard a little bit about the Bond neighborhood as we put together our Neighborhood First plan and presented it to the CRA. It was awarded $6.4 million. So we're currently working through implementation of that plan. COVID is slowing us down a little bit, but we're trucking forward. I am also a member of the current Leadership Tallahassee Class 37, the best class ever. # failure is not an option. Lots of things, Tallahassee and leadership here. Really enjoy servicing Tallahassee. Definitely getting used to this new normal. So a little bit about me, not to go overboard.
You're very busy. You're a very busy lady. So 8 kids. How are you doing? You've got your husband's a teacher, right?
Yeah, he is.
You have 8 kids at home. How are you hanging in there through all of this? I guess is my first and foremost question. We got to check in on you.
Yeah, so we're doing good. I mean, it's always a hustle and bustle, even without COVID. But COVID is definitely a new normal with everybody being home and trying to actually reacclimate ourselves to school and work and just the balance of not being busy at home, right? Because many of us have taken that busy from outdoors and brought it into our houses. And so that's definitely a readjustment to making sure that I'm staying focused and that I'm giving the kids the attention that they need, or focusing them in the right direction so that they stay, one, with low anxiety, two, that they stay on track with education. And my husband is getting a lot of rest because he works in Georgia. He teaches in Grady County. And so that's been really good to have him around the house, but definitely a new normal.
Oof, not oof. It sounds wonderful to kind of have everybody sit still for a second, but it's a lot. You're homeschooling essentially.
Yeah.
Most of the kids are in school?
Yeah, most of my kids are in school. Well, everybody except the baby is in school. And so I've homeschooled before. So the kids being home is not as difficult as I see some parents having. However, everybody now is in different levels. Once was, everybody was in elementary, so we're kind of sticking in the same topic, but now everybody is in different levels. So it's breaking those things down and really just coming up with a schedule that we can stick to, because you're home, so you can sleep as late as you want to, right? You can have lunch when you want. You're free. Your time is your time. But homeschooling it's rewarding for me because I enjoy seeing my kids spark up and learn. And I'm guessing that's why teachers do it, because it's some kind of reward in that. But that's been a really good thing, seeing the baby girls, read and know that they're reading with fluency, and that just feels good.
I don't have kids, but I can only imagine it is kind of rewarding. Amanda, you have kids, Amanda with a Leadership Tallahassee, and I know some of the others in the office do, and Corey, and she said she's just having so much fun in a way of getting to be there with them while that happens. But I can imagine it's really tough for a lot of parents that have to work still.
Yeah.
So you're heavily involved with the Bond community. What are you seeing? What are you seeing some of the greatest needs through all of this? What are you kind of seeing on the front lines?
Yeah, so the need hasn't changed, right? Like the demand and the need in the community hasn't changed. It's been a lot more frenzy, but the needs are still the same. So when we got the announcement that, number one, school was going to be canceled, the pandemic was actually happening, and we were, trying to just fit all into this new normal. So we all jumped into, we need to feed Tallahassee's children. We have food insecure neighborhoods and food insecure families. How do we do that? How do we help with that? And so that's been really the main focus the last 2 weeks, was feeding Tallahassee and getting food to those who may not have it. But the needs go beyond food. Seeing individuals with financial needs, because people are being laid off, they're losing their jobs, or the hours are being cut. Housing insecurities. Definitely child care is, like, in my area, the number one need, because most of the families are working and have children. So with school being out, or typically that's where the kids go while parents are working, the need for child care and figuring it out is definitely one of the most critical needs at this point.
Because they're still working.
Yeah, because people in my community are working at those service industry jobs, right? The Walmarts, the fast food restaurants, those things that we're still enjoying those luxuries. So they're not at home. They're getting up and they're going to work every day.
Are there any initiatives in place or any organizations you're seeing that are trying to assist, or is it more of a community effort?
Yeah, with the food. So Leon County did the school lunches, and a lot of us community members went and helped pass it out. Second Harvest, oh my God, Second Harvest is everywhere and doing everything, streamlining things so well while staying socially, doing the social distancing. I was laughing. We were at TCC passing out food last week, and Monique was like, "Listen, 10 people, we're gonna do this right." But we were able to serve over 1,000 families with that. And so it's streamlining the resources. Second Harvest has it down pat with the food. They know how to purchase food. They know how to distribute food. They have a way by which to organize volunteers. So that I think that's really a big thing. I've seen Farm Share go out and do some food. Some local churches are serving as farm share sites where they are passing out food. Village Square is doing mass. They are really streamlining it. And I think that's what's going to be important. We don't want to reinvent the wheel while we're helping out here, right? We want to put our efforts where they're already being done. I don't want to say correctly, but they're being done efficiently. Let's use that word. They're being done efficiently so that the majority of people are serviced and we're not everywhere and people don't know where to go.
I like it. What kind of positive things have you seen come out of this? Has there been any kind of special silver lining to all of it?
Yeah, Denise started Feed Tallahassee Kids, which was the first kind of hub of coordinating everybody, which was great. I've also seen mothers from the north side reach out to leaders on the south side to say, hey, we have resources, we want to help, how can we help? That has been, I think, the thing that has warmed my heart the most, because we have this notion of the two Tallahassees, right? In your side and my side. And so during this time, we saw immediately that line was blurred very quickly with people wanting to help, and not just wanting to help in a way that they thought was best, but asking, how can I help? What do you need? How can I really be of service? And so that I hope that we continue on that path in this city, that we blur that line of the have and the have-nots, and we just find out where the need is and we push into it and we make Tallahassee better.
Jamie, did you have a question? Are you physically raising your hand and I missed it? Go for it.
Yeah. Talethia, thanks for being on this morning, and obviously thanks for everything that you do. Your reputation precedes you, and we're very lucky to have you in the community. But when you're looking at your folks in Bond, I would imagine that a lot of them are either homebound in some way, or access to transportation is a little bit more difficult to get to some of these feeding sites.
Yeah.
One, is that an actual problem? And two, how are you addressing it? Do you have neighbors that are bringing food back to people, or what are there creative ways that you've found to help get that food mobile into the homes that of the folks that live around you?
Yeah, so transportation is definitely an issue. So with the school lunches, we've broken a few rules. We've broken rules. We've taken food to people who needed it. With the Second Harvest, it's been really good because you can pick up for up to 3 households. And so there's been individuals that have been picking up for households or bringing individuals to the actual sites to get food. And that has been really, really helpful, definitely for our seniors, because our seniors are afraid to leave the house. They won't even open the door because they understand what can happen if they were to contract coronavirus. But it's been a mobilization of community members going to houses who they know were food insecure, getting the resources and taking it back. So yeah.
Awesome. Thanks, Jamie. Jason Hollister wants to know how we can use our platforms as to bring awareness and care for the Bond community.
I think that you can use your platforms by, number one, finding out exactly what that need is, and then 2, asking those who want to be involved to come out and be involved. Like I said, right now, everybody's looking for masks, right? So Village Square have mask makers, mask deliverers, and then those who want to donate money, who don't want to physically get involved. So how is it that you can stay safe in this pandemic, but still help someone? I know that individuals have seen us kind of out there and passing out food and doing things because we have to. People in our communities don't have the resources to come out, so we have to go out, and we are trying to stay as safe as we can. But that's just the reality here on this side of town. But like I said, staying safe, because we need everybody to flatten this curve. But finding out, how do I get into a resource that's being done efficiently, and then I push that out. Again, Second Harvest, Village Square. A lot of other people are doing great, the restaurants and stuff like that. But those are the two organizations that I've seen really efficiently doing what they're doing to help.
Awesome, awesome. Talethia, you're a leader. People look to you for answers. They come to you for help. I mean, you have a baby because of it. People know they can trust you and lean on you. How has that shifted at all through this? Has it intensified at all? I mean, how has that role changed through the changes in our world right now?
Yeah, so it's a little more pressure, right? Everybody, when you are a leader, and I believe all leaders are feeling the same way, people look to you for answers. They feel that you know all the information. And as COVID was, panning out, I didn't have all the answers. I didn't know everything. Blessed to be in connection with those in higher leadership where you can get information and disseminate it. But no, I didn't have all the answers, but it has. And people have come to my house, literally sat down. Listen, I'm not leaving until I get an answer to this question. Particularly school, like parents are concerned with the fourth 9 weeks and how it's going to roll out and what's going to happen with the kids, the grading, the moving matriculation to the next grade level. And so that's pressure while I'm trying to figure it out myself in my own house. Definitely wanting my neighbors to be informed and know as well. So that's extra time on the phone with district office or, our city officials, and finding out, how do I get this information from you and then break it down so that I can relate it to my neighbors where that is in bite-sized pieces that people understand it and understand it, how it fits in the context for them. So yeah, pray for me.
You've got it. You've got it. You're killing it out there. Stephanie Shoemate asks, how are you staying positive and having fun during this crazy time? Leave it to Stephanie to ask the fun question.
I know, Stephanie. Hey, I put my hammock up. My husband put my hammock up. He thought that I was doing a little bit too much working, as he calls it. But he put my hammock up, and I was able to go outside and really just look up at the sky and not think about what was happening around me and write. I used to be a really avid writer. And this time has really had a lot of thoughts flowing through my head. I'm like, I need to capture these down on paper, some of this thought during this pandemic. So I've been writing. I've been doing a lot of meditating. I never meditated before. So I downloaded the Calm app, which is amazing. And I've started learning to meditate, to slow my breathing and to really get thoughts out of my head, because that's something hard for me to do. So that's been fun. I know it may not sound like fun to people, but it's fun to me. I've done a little bit of painting, not as much as I would like to do. And I've bought some pastels. So that's been my fun.
I like it. That sounds like my sitting still kind of sounds fun right now, and just pausing for a moment.
When you have the kids, like I have children in their homes, so sitting still for a long time isn't necessarily a thing, right? Definitely, I have a baby, so have to entertain him and play with him and stuff like that. So I have to do things that I could do with my kids. So when I'm painting or if I'm drawing with the pastels, I can have them color or do something as well while I'm doing that. So it's really having that doing something that's for me, but what everybody can enjoy it.
I like that. Does anybody else have any questions? You can physically raise your hand like Jamie did if you need to. Amanda, do you have a vision for what the next phase of needs or focus for leadership may be?
I do. I actually believe that the next need is childcare. And so just because I realize that it's an issue even when there's not a pandemic. And so one of the visions I do have is a co-op childcare kind of network. And I haven't thought all the way through it, but if you do a co-op childcare system, you don't have to worry about background checks and all of those DCF kind of requirements. You could have mothers and caregivers, you know, swapping out on times and taking shifts to watch each other's children. And I think that that would definitely be a phase 2 as this continue, because if it does continue, what do we do with the children as the summer comes and we can't go to summer camps and we can't be together? So definitely thinking through that, and who would be good partners, and how do we work it out? How do we feed the children that are there? That's a lot to think through, but that is definitely a vision that I've had in my mind since this started, and know that it'll definitely be a need.
Sorry, I'm not muted, or I'm unmuted. Stephanie Knoll, for organizations like the Historic Capital that are trying to create activities for families to do at home, a ton of the ideas are social media based or internet based. How can we best assist communities that may not have access to internet?
Yeah, maybe little packets, but one of the things about the internet that I hope we can get information out to families, if you all know Stephanie Bowden with Comcast, Comcast is offering new people who live in low-income areas 60 days of free Comcast Essentials. That's one they have increased the broadband with, which is awesome. Also, Leon County Schools, if the families do not have access to internet, they can contact their school and the district can purchase like these little Wi-Fi transmitters. I don't know what you call them. But so we're trying to get that information out to families so that everyone has access to internet and some kind of electronic. But I think putting together little kits or printable ones that individuals that may be able to print for families can actually print them off. That may be something a way that you can help families who don't have access. That's
a great idea. How have you kept leaders and the community connected when we aren't supposed to be physically close?
Well, we're in group chat. At first, we were all together. Like the first week, everybody was out and serving and leading, just doing what they know to do. But we've stayed in contact through group chat, on our own social medias, really checking in. How are you? You know, are you well today? We've learned to ask each other that question, are you well today? Because what people don't realize as well is that as leaders and those who are busybody leaders who are always doing stuff, we're not well and not doing stuff, because we know that there's needs out there and things that need to happen. And not that if we don't do it, it won't get done, but we are part of those action-oriented leaders that get things done. So really asking, how can I help you, or what can I do while you're doing it and I can stay at home, but it makes the job lighter. So yeah, that's what we've been doing, really just checking in on each other.
That's so important. I know we get in our own bubbles at home and you kind of only check on your 2 or 3 people, or maybe just your family as the weeks go on. I've noticed myself doing that and starting to get more and more content in my little bubble. So you've got to reach out and
yeah, I've made it definitely to check on our leaders that we aren't checking on, our commissioners, and I've just tried to just send a text or a quick message on social media and say, hey, just checking on you, how are you doing? And if you write a list of a couple people a week that you need to do that for, and people want that, because some people are not having that contact. Because you're right, as it goes longer, we're more and more getting in our bubble. So that's been the way I've done it. Heads of agencies and CEOs, and they need it because they're trying to figure out, nonprofits, how do we continue to serve the people we're serving, and what happens after this is over.
Mm-hmm. It's very uncharted waters for everybody. Jamie, I saw your hand go up.
Yeah, Talethia, to follow up on that point, because I know you're hearing the same things that I am, which are along those same lines. It's difficult when, you know, sort of what you alluded to earlier, people like us want to kind of dig in and lean in and help and metaphorically and literally get our hands on things to try and make everything better. And in these weird times, sort of like your original story around when Monique was kind of barking at us about like only 10 people at a time, like we're not going to get, you know, not going to put anybody in danger or whatever. The major things that I'm hearing is access to capital for small businesses, access to like free resources for nonprofits, and basically monetary flotation devices, to use a weird metaphor there. How do you balance sort of wanting to jump in and try to help with realizing that really the one major thing that a lot of these entities, I would argue all of these entities, are really looking for is like money that they would normally be bringing in that they are now not. So I was talking to Proof Brewing Company the other day, for example, because my buddy works there, and he said they're at about 20% of where they would normally be this time last year, and that is like pretty damn good considering, you know, where the rest of people are. So I guess my real question for you and sort of your thoughts on how do you balance when you're talking to folks in the community who are saying like, I need money, with like our want to go hand people food.
Definitely. So thank you for bringing that up. And that is definitely a major point. And what we do is we shy away from that. We shy away from talking about resources and what we need. And so I wrote that down to talk about the resources. But yeah, so asking for money is always hard because individuals feel like organizations and people have the money, and we don't. The money, we're already working with a limited pot in our community, and what we do need is resources and capital and things that keep stuff going. Money, you can't do anything without money. So I think first, how we balance it is we just say it. We need money, we need resources, and we know that the city is trying to, you know, roll out these little stimulus packages. We know that the government have it, which I heard they ran out of money for small businesses and nonprofits, but we have to be able to say that those who have the resources, if you can give the resources, because that's what's going to be needed in order to continue the service. Because you can have as many hands as you want and bodies as you want standing up, but if you don't have the product or the money to give those services, it's nothing to do, right? We're all just kind of standing around and twiddling our thumbs. So that would be my answer. Let's talk about that. Resource those agencies who are doing good work, who got proven, you know, methods. Go, Jamie. You want to say something?
Well, yeah, and I was just I agree with your point, and I think that something creative that a lot of businesses are doing are almost like selling little bonds for themselves, basically like Chop Barbershop, which is where I get my haircut and is needed desperately right now, is like you can go in and select your barber and basically pay for X number of haircuts in the future when they do open back up. And I think like businesses are having to come up with creative ways to do that. But I wonder, you know, and I think you spoke to it pretty well, but you know, a lot of these folks are thinking like, where is the longevity with some of these government assistance programs?
Yeah, because they won't.
Really have no idea how long it's going to last.
Yeah, they won't last. And I get concerned with our community. One is that we have a problem with, and I know we're going into something deep, but we have an issue with businesses coming in already, right? Like if you know Tallahassee, you know that we have an issue with businesses coming into this city and wanting to be here and how they're going to be sustainable in these things. So COVID is like making that even bigger, because as we're working definitely in a community like mine to attract commercial businesses and commerce to come here, with people who already don't have money and who we could be looking at a recession, that further puts Tallahassee, who's trying to move forward, you know, it's taking us a couple steps backwards. So I think I like that idea with, you know, paying for your haircuts in advance. I'm wondering if small businesses even have the foresight to think about those things. Can I prepay for my meals? Like, I think about it. I've been cooking at home, but I've been getting tired of that. Can I get a restaurant that will provide me a family pack that I can pay at a discount? I know BJ's, which is a big national chain, but they've been doing it. Can we get our small businesses to think in that mindset? Can you take your menu and redo it so that you are still getting money and you could attract a family like me who may need larger portions of food, that you can add it at a value discount? So that's definitely another way to think about it. But I don't think our small businesses are thinking like that.
I love it. Great conversation. I see a couple questions in the chat. Jason Halser asks, what are ways that we can bring together the two Tallahassees and begin to bring down the divide?
I think I know I love to say just do it, but I believe in just doing it. I think we do a lot of talking, and talking is necessary in order to make people comfortable. So, but at first you have to do it. You have to make a conscious effort to actually come together and not be afraid to do that, right? I remember having a conversation with someone who said, and they were so sincere in what he said. He said, listen, I want to help. I want to come over. I want to have these conversations, but I don't know how. And I was like, let's just have them, right? Like, it may be hard, and be okay if you say something or do something and that's offensive. I say that's offensive, because we have to learn, right? We have to begin to do it. So my idea, if I could do it, I would have like a big old concert, a picnic. We did a kickball game, and that was amazing. It was not supposed to be as huge as it turned out, but that kickball game brought different parts of Tallahassee together. And it was not something I sat down and thought, oh, this is my intentions. And I really, honest to God, was actually talking to my family about kickball. And when I wrote the post, people in the community started writing. I'm like, oh, I can't renege on it now, right? Like, I gotta go for it. And it turned out, Amanda, to be one of the best events that everybody's asking, are you gonna do it again? And I hadn't planned it, but we came together, and it brought all sides of Tallahassee together. So I think unscripted events that get us together and get us outside of these normal, let's talk about it. Maybe we don't want to talk about it. Maybe we want to create relationships, because it's out of relationship is what's going to erase that divide. We're going to get to know each other a little bit better in atmospheres that aren't contrived and put together. So my thing, let's just do it, and let's really build relationships together.
That is fantastic. Jamie's raising his hand again.
Yeah, I just wanted to kind of piggyback onto that point, and sorry if I'm dominating the conversation, Talethia, but
No, you're good.
I think, and I would imagine everybody probably who's logged in right now would agree, I think a lot of where we sort of heal the divides in the community, I think we can take control of that with how we talk about the community. I think it's getting pretty easy to like bash Tallahassee in a way, and I think it's been that way for like a long period of time, as long as I've been here at least. But I think it's going to take like a younger generation of leaders to change the narrative around what we're seeing. I mean, there are significant issues that are particularly along zip code divides. I noticed Jay Revel is in here listening in, and I think Jay would agree with this too, because I've heard him talk about it. But you know, I think the more that we perpetuate a narrative that things are dangerous or bad, or you know, there's no way to get ahead or anything like that, then we get into that mindset, and it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. But I think that you know, while addressing these things, we have to work to change the community narrative around like things are getting better, as opposed to things have always been this way and we're continuing to stay the same. So I think we all have a role to play in how we shape the future outlook of this community, while we also like invest in it monetarily and in you know, incentives and infrastructure improvements and all of those things that go along with building a community.
Exactly. I think my paradigm shift came because my everybody knows my leadership started on South Side of Tallahassee. And when you're in that bubble, right, you only know the issues and the problems and the people that you're actually working with in your area. Mm-hmm. My paradigm shift came when I took the leadership trip to Greenville. This is a very true story. If I ever wrote a book, I would tell it. Is that I began to see a city, like when we went to Greenville was very intentional in, one, telling its story, two, creating this linear kind of pride in what Greenville had to offer. And so I thought I was there on the trip, and I thought about it, I'm like, wow, we're so divided in Tallahassee, and we have great things in Tallahassee. And if we talk about a holistic Tallahassee, then not to disregard or put off the problems that are happening in different neighborhoods, right? But if we talk about Tallahassee holistically, we won't leave any pieces out. And you're going to continue to have leaders like me. I'm advocating over here. I'm going to raise my hand and say, hey, don't forget about us. Let's make sure we don't leave this piece of town out either. And I think people want to hear that. We have had conversation, but we've had more negative kind of conflict in conversation about how we make Tallahassee better. But how do we enjoy it, right? How do we retell our story that is all encompassing? Like now, as we begin to rebrand Bond, talk about Bond being a part of Tallahassee's urban core, and in walking distance of Cascade and downtown, and St. Mark's Trail runs through the neighborhood. That's a Tallahassee, that's a pride thing, right? And so I think that is where it starts, is retelling the story and talking about Tallahassee as a whole and not in sections.
Yeah. And listen, from like a business and a economic perspective, if we're trying to build a private sector driven economy in a government driven town,
That's right.
If we want to have businesses move here, what are they going to do? They're going to look at what people are saying about Tallahassee. And if they Google Tallahassee and they see like, oh my gosh, this place is burning down because of X, Y, and Z awful things that people like to say about it, then we're just working against each other. And it's like we're trying to build on quicksand unless we change this narrative and start talking positively. The Greenville example is a perfect one because they literally changed the outlook on their downtown specifically, and it came up into like an incredible place. So I think that it all goes hand in hand, and we can't have one without the other, like you said.
I agree. I definitely agree.
Need a little self-love. I mean, you don't want to date someone with low self-esteem. So why would a company want to date Tallahassee if they hate themselves?
That's exactly right.
To completely water down all the
point.
fabulous things that you both just said, let me just, analyze it. Yeah, never mind. We have time for a couple more questions. Does anybody else want to raise their hand or type anything in the chat box? No? Well, this was so wonderful. Thank you so much, Talethia, for waking up early, or probably not waking up early. You have 8 kids. You've probably been up for hours, for joining us this morning. And thank you so much for True Leave, Skylar. I see Renee is on here. Thank y'all for joining us too and for sponsoring. We'll do this again next Friday. So we'll see y'all again at 8:30. Again, this is our second one. So if you have any feedback, shoot me an email. I appreciate the ones that did last week with some suggestions. Notice we started at 8:30 instead of 8. So, all right, y'all, have a wonderful weekend. Stay safe, stay healthy, wash your hands, and we'll see you next week.